Usually, China exclusive means a colorway specifically dropping in China that the rest of the world will not get access to. But in the case of Nike's most recent outdoor basketball shoe, they're actually just dropping the shoe in China. So, the shoe itself. However, there are still exceptions. There are some colorways that are dropping in the US market, there are some that I believe are dropping in Europe, and one that is dropping here in the US is the PE colorway for Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham. Nike SD Charge Detroit Tough. Now, the shoe first dropped on June 2nd for $140. The SD in SD Charge stands for Street Tough. So right from the name, Nike wants you to wear the shoe outdoors on the streets, something that my herniated discs in my back and my bad knees can't really do anymore. But first impressions of the shoe, I think it looks really nice. Like the shape of it, performance aside, I'll get to that soon. Just the shape of it and the design, I think it's a very sleek looking shoe. Kind of reminds me of the Ja 3s. It's very simple, nothing too outstanding, but it looks good. In the right colorway, I think this would be beautiful. This colorway specifically, I think it's nice. I don't think it's anything too special, but we don't have too much of a choice in terms of colorways for this silhouette. So it is what it is. Now in terms of the box, you will see this reddish, almost infrared color with ST branding there. And in terms of the materials, this is what Nike calls monster skin. You get this kind of mesh-like texture. The breathability of the shoe, I wouldn't say it's very great, but there are some parts that does let some air through. So you'll see on the tongue, there's a few holes. Like if you put your hand behind it, you can actually see your skin. That gives some ventilation to the shoe. And at the top of the tongue, this being a Cade Cunningham colorway, this does have his logo there. And the tongue itself, you might think it could be something like the Kobe 8s, where the tongue can sometimes kind of cut into the ankles, doesn't feel too nice. This though is pretty soft with a bit of like cushioning in the tongue itself. And in terms of the laces, you will just get these one set of laces out of the box, no extra laces to choose from. And you do see those 4 metal-like eyelets at the very top. It is not actually metal, it is just plastic. And then moving around to the booty of the shoe, you will get a pull tab there with Cade's number 2. And on the other side of that pull tab, you will see a world, like a globe, that says Nike ST. Now in terms of the cushioning of the shoe, it does come with a Cushlon 3.0 drop-in. So that's one thing I do like. I've really liked Cushlon 3.0 and different Nike basketball shoes. Sabrina 2s and 3s specifically I really love. The idea behind like a drop-in is because the cushioning is right under your foot, the responsiveness is increased, and this drop-in also has those patterns that is meant for like grip, so anti-slip. One thing that's kind of annoying about that is when you like slide your socks in, you can kind of hold onto your socks and like just keeps your sock in place while you're trying to slide your foot in. It just becomes a bit of a nuisance, but it's not as much as those like Mamba-like scales on the Kobe's. So that's one little improvement there. And you'll see also on this drop-in a Zoom turbo unit, so a large zoom unit on the forefoot of this shoe. So overall, generally, I don't love drop-ins. I do feel like just feels a little bit more muted. I do prefer like a more traditional setup for my basketball shoes. So like the cushioning kind of baked into the shoe itself. I do feel like that gives me a little bit more kind of firmness, gives me a little bit of energy return. But I will say that big Zoom turbo unit in the forefoot definitely helps with responsiveness. Now in terms of the outsole, this is what Nike calls XDRX. So XDR stands for extra durable rubber. X is like an evolution, the next phase of XDR. I will say I can no longer play outdoors because my back, my knees are just not at the place where I can really stand the ruggedness of outdoor play. So I'm gonna give you my experience of this shoe, like playing indoors. That is still very possible as well. The traction here, you'll see this herringbone-like traction. It actually works pretty well. Generally, when I shoot B-roll, I play in a pretty dusty gym, just not the best well maintained. Even though I paid $289 a month, they still do not clean it very regularly, so that annoys the shit out of me. But with this shoe, it actually did pretty decent. I did not have to wipe too many times, It actually gripped the court pretty well. Even though this is translucent, you might be like, oh, this will just attract dust like other translucent outsoles. But I didn't have a bad time with this, so that was a pretty standout feature here. And you will see this outsole extend way up onto the upper of the shoe with that extra reinforced TPU as well, nearly up to the ankle collar honestly, and that is obviously to provide more side-to-side support, side-to-side stability. Now you will see on the medial side of the shoe, this like translucent swoosh. That's where the rubber compound breaks up a bit, so it gives you a bit more flexibility in that area. And one thing that's pretty cool about this is when I remove that drop-in, it's actually like translucent. You can see your hand like poking through. You'll also see Zoom Air branding there. Now, on the insole, you do see this like little torsion plate there. That's not like super stiff or anything. I don't know practically, like functionally, if it provides too much. But the materials on the shoe with the outsole coming up so high, I think it does a pretty good job of torsional rigidity. Remember, I am a lightweight player, even though I usually drive to the rim, do cuts, kind of more aggressive play, but I'm still very light. I'm not a machine, I'm not a tank, I am not an athletic specimen, so keep that in mind. It does plenty enough for me. You will also see this pretty wide base here. That definitely helps with stability. The outrigger isn't super aggressive, so that's something to look out for, but the base is just decently wide. One thing I wish it had more was like some kinetic energy return, so when you push down on your feet, as much energy rises back up as possible. I think that is a little lagging in this shoe. Now I will say the biggest downside of the shoe is the weight. So because of all this kind of ruggedness and the rugged nature of the shoe, the weight, there's just not a ton of weight savings. The outsole coming up so high, that extra rubber compound just makes it a little bit more chunky, especially compared to other 2026 shoes. It's also super flat, like flat to the ground. Like even flatter than some other basketball shoes, but generally are pretty flat already. This is flat as hell, but I will say you do sit pretty low to the ground, so that's good court feel. But some people might prefer like a bit of heel drop feeling to their basketball shoes. I didn't mind the flatness. I already have flat feet, so that's not really a big adjustment for me, which brings me to sizing and comfort. I am a wide and flat footer. Generally for like Nike shoes, Nike basketball shoes, it can come pretty tight right out of the box, especially for Kobe's. He just has super slender feet. For these, I think width-wise, it's actually okay. Like it was kind of tight, but it was nowhere near as tight as any Kobe's. I think the Sabrina 3s, when I first put them on feet, required a bit more break-in time. These was okay. I didn't feel any pain in the arch area. I didn't feel any pain like in the toe box, but still like width-wise, it was right at the boundary. Any tighter, it would have started to feel kind of sore. I will say the heel though, doesn't like cup onto your heel as much as some other shoes. Like off the top of my head, like the Ja 3s, I think cups it a bit more. Some Kobe's really try to make an effort of having that kind of contour that tries to keep your heel in place. So that's one thing I noticed. Not like too much heel slippage, but it just didn't feel too stable in that part of the shoe for me, for my foot shape. Now, generally for basketball shoes, I don't give it a sole score. The metrics just don't really make sense for a performance shoe, but I do have a final verdict, and I think it's a very capable shoe, especially for the price range. It is not like super duper expensive. I don't think, apart from the weight, there's like too many glaring weaknesses on this shoe. I don't think there's anything like super outstanding as well. Now, like I said before, I can no longer play outdoors, so I'm going to judge this as an indoor shoe, which NBA players have done. So would I choose these over some of my other favorites like the Sabrina 2s and 3s? I really like the Kobe 1 Pro Tros still. I don't think so. I think the weight savings on the Sabrinas, using the same type of Cushlon 3.0 cushioning, but having a more traditional setup instead of a drop-in, is just my preferred type of setup. So I take those over this. I will say support-wise and stability-wise, these definitely are an improvement over the Sabrinas. Now, do I wish this was just a shoe dropping in the Chinese market with some rare colorways dropping for the US market? No, but Nike does what it does. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sole Inclined. Let me know what you think of the Nike ST Charge Detroit Tough. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes